Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their craft or squares section and grab some of these little wood pallets. Now we're going to need 4 of them for this project. We're going to be creating a decoupaged wood centerpiece. You'll be able to fit a piece of glass in this or floral foam. We're going to need to put a nice coat of white paint, so this way our design pops over top of the pallets. I'm using a little bit of my water and my spray bottle to give it a little spritzy spritz. It just helps me move the paint around these pallets and get in all those little grooves easier. And then when the paint is dry, we're going to need to put a layer of medium on here. Now I'm going to use some good old Mod Podge to do this iron on method. Feel free to use whatever works best for you. For the decoupage portion, I'm going to be using some of my TDS Rice Paper. This is A4 in size. This stuff is super thin. It's a little fibrous and it's really easy to use. Absolutely take this idea and remix it using whatever you would like. This is just what I'm rolling with. To apply the Mod Podge, I'm going to be using some of my TDS artist brushes. These are perfect for decoupage. I'm going to use them to spread a nice healthy layer of Mod Podge around and try not to get grossed out.
Oh my god. Why did there have to be a booger in it? Ew, oh god.
Things that literally just make me want to shrivel up and gag. Anyhow, I used the Mod Podge that was not gross and the fan brushes to spread out a nice thick juicy layer all over the top of these pallets. The struggle is always waiting for them to dry. I like to do that naturally and not rush the process with a heat gun, and this can take a few hours. When that's all done, it's time to bring on in the iron, and I like to set mine on the highest setting. You do not have to use one of these irons for this. Use whatever iron you would like. Make sure to grab you a piece of parchment paper. Yes, parchment paper, not wax paper. Parchment paper is for heat, wax is for sticking, plus wax paper has that waxy residue. Parchment paper does not, okay? This is going to help protect your piece, along with allow that iron to get nice and hot and help that Mod Podge melt in to whatever you're ironing on. And a good rule of thumb is to pick your piece up and check all around the edges. I do this by just tugging a little bit and making sure that everything's attached. For these pallets, I like to grab my X-Acto knife and then trim down the excess in between the pallets and around the edges. You can absolutely remove your napkins or your decoupage paper or your rice paper, however you would like. I have done hundreds of pallet DIY projects over the years, and this to me is the easiest to not mess up your piece. And then I will go around the edges, smoothing everything out with my little finger sander. When I was all done, I grabbed my Titebond wood glue and added around the edges and attached the pieces. Another cool idea would be to add a bottom to this if you would like. I've done a different variation of this project with a bottom. You could put some twine or some ribbon around the middle. So many different ways that you can transform this and remix it into something that fits in your home with your decor. I'm always looking for new ideas for Dollar Tree's wood pallets. I'm also always looking for new ways to use some upcycled glass. So we're going to take 3 of these wood pallets and turn them into floral wall decor. And to do that, we're going to need to bring on in the miter shears. We're going to need to use this to cut down these pallets into really just 1 into 2 pieces. So we can add 2 pieces onto the end of 1 of each of the pallets, if that makes sense. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Let's roll on. I'm cutting down some little popsicle bits so this way we can use them as a brace to hold those pallets together that we cut down. You can use whatever you would like. To attach them, I'm going to be using some Titebond Quick and Thick and some hot glue. I'm going to smush them both in here, not overlapping them, and then allow this to dry completely before we move on to the next part. So if you want your pallets to actually become a square, this this is what it's gonna take. I'm gonna paint up these glass pieces. You could absolutely leave them clear if you would like. I'm gonna grab some of my Waverly chalk paint in the ink color and tappity tap 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 with the pouncer all over them. I applied 2 full coats to each piece. We're going to take these squares and make them diamonds, kind of. Mostly. That's how we're going to put the hangers on the back, okay? This is how I also decided. This is about as measurement-y as you're ever going to see me get, people. I know you don't, I usually wing it, but look at me. I got the ruler here, I measured it out, found a spot. Pretty level too. I'm pretty proud of myself. Next, I grabbed my favorite hammer in hooks. These are little sawtooth hammer in hooks. They're really easy to use. You just bring on in your little hammer, and before I get a whole bunch of comments going, Brandy, where did you get that hammer? Target. In the Bullseye Playground. And it was last year, people, so I can't promise if you go running there now that you're gonna find it, okay? It's super cute. I know, don't hate on me. Anyhow, this is how easy it is. Just a little tappity tap and it's in there. Next, we're gonna grab some Dollar Tree metal ribbon, and I know many of you struggle finding this, so if you can't find it at Dollar Tree, you can also grab some at Hobby Lobby if you got a Hobby Lobby local to you. But I mean, really use whatever you would like for this. I'm using this as basically the hanger for these. Measure them down to size, wrap them around the glass, and if you wrap them snug enough, this is not my first rodeo with this, I've done this with cans and several different glass pieces, they hold as long as the metal is tight. And we're going to call on in the stapler so we can attach these with some hot glue and make sure that they're on there really, really well. I am so happy with how amazing these turned out. What a great way to put to use some of those old glass pieces you got laying around your house. And the wood pallets too. For this project, we're going to turn these 3 larger pallets into a paper towel holder. I know, people, just listen, roll on with me. Let's attach these 3 pieces together using a popsicle stick. Add a little bit of hot glue, a little bit of Type-On Quick and Thick, and allow this to dry for several hours. Then I grabbed my Waverly white chalk paint. Obviously, paint yours whatever color you would like. I'm going for that vintagey farmhouse vibe with this, so white worked for me. And then you're going to need a dowel, people. If you have a circle one, use that. I didn't, so I grabbed this large square one I had picked up a while back that was in my stash from Hobby Lobby, and I brought on in the miter shears. Because this was pretty long, we had to cut it down to size. Leave yourself just enough overhang so this way we can put it through our paper towel holder. And to do that, I'm going to cut down some burlap into strips. We really just need 2 strips for this. You could use regular fabric if you would like. And then it's time to bring on in the stapler. I'm bringing the whole family in on this project, okay? The whole family. Say hi to Fred. On each end of the pallets, I attached the burlap strips. I added a couple staples, and then to cover up those staples, I'm going to take that tight bond and put a little dab in there with some of these vintage buttons just to cover them up. And I do want to point out, in case you go to make this at home, you will notice that the burlap strips are kind of out to the side. This is because we need to make sure that there's enough room for our paper towel roll to be able to move. If I would have did them straight down with just having 3 of the wood pallets, it would have rubbed on the side and been difficult to pull off any extra. I decided to grab my TDS dry rub on transfers and put a couple sections on the top of just the writing. I felt like they would add the perfect vintagey farmhouse touch. Now you'll notice that after I rub these on, I come back in with some scissors, and that's because these transfers are pretty sticky, and I had the sections of the words were completely stuck together still. So the scissors allowed me to cut the little sections down, and then I used the end of a paintbrush and my finger to just smooth them down on the sides. I did seal over this with a light amount of Mod Podge. added a floral foam piece in the center with some floral pieces, and I absolutely love how this piece turned out. It's such a creative way to use these Dollar Tree wood pallets. These right here are the perfect size to make coasters. We're gonna make a set using some of Dollar Tree's transfers and some of TDS transfers. If you're ever looking for something to keep your coasters in, Dollar Tree has these wood slat crates that are the perfect size to house 4 pieces, which is typically what a set of coasters is sold with. But for today, we're just gonna make a set of 2. I don't know about you, but I'm always switching out my coasters, whether I'm using towel or wood, and these are always perfect to remix depending on your mood, really. You could make these every day if you got them sitting in your stash. I love the fact that transfers are a unique way for you to mix and match the different brands and get cool creative looks for really whatever your style is that day. There are a bunch of different ways you can finish off your coasters. I keep these little soft touch circle pieces that I pick up from Home Depot in my stash. I also use the cork from Dollar Tree. I will cut them down to size. These are perfect for the bottom of these Dollar Tree pallets. Just put 4 in each corner, and they really help to not scratch your surfaces on whatever you're putting your little coasters on. To protect our transfers, I'm just going to use some dishwasher safe Mod Podge and put a nice layer over top of these transfers. Another creative way to create some coasters is to use a stencil. And I'm going to be using my TDS stencils for this. Feel free to use whatever stencils you would like. I'm just going to take out the second piece. This stencil set has 2 different stencils, a total of 12 stencils, and cut down one that fits perfectly over top of these little wood pallets. Then I'm just taking a little dry brush with some Tuscan red paint and plopping the stencil right on here. The cool thing I love about stencils is you can really create your own designs and take little sections of the stencil, making more accents as you go. You don't actually have to use the entire stencil to create a design if you don't want to. For the sealer, I'm just going to use some dishwasher safe Mod Podge. Feel free to use whatever you would like. On the bottom, I am going to use some of Dollar Tree's adhesive cork. This stuff is great to cut down in sections. You get a lot for $1.25, and it really helps protect your surfaces whenever you're creating coasters. If you ever question whether or not this adhesive is going to stick onto what you're putting them onto, take a little bit of tacky glue on a paintbrush and just paint around the edges. I've done that on towels, I've done that on glass pieces, and I've done that on wood pieces. It's a really great way to ensure that adhesive sticks and protects your surfaces. We're gonna need 2 of these Dollar Tree mini wood pallets so we can create a set of Tealight sconces. And grab 2 of these fancy schmancy frames from Dollar Tree while you're at it. I love having these in my stash. We're gonna take some of my Waverly chalk paint in the ink color and a pouncer and just tappity tap 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 all over these frames. I do not want full coverage. This is the color scheme I'm going for with this today, and I am taking that pouncer and that same paint and going over the palettes. Remix this idea with what works best for your home and your color palette. This is just something I had in mind that I've been wanting to try since I've painted these beautiful frames that Dollar Tree has, several different colors. On the back of the frames, I'm going to take some of my Dixie Belle Gold Gilding Wax, just do a light dusting. This is the part that we're going to attach the pallets to. If you don't have this stuff, no worries, you can grab some gold metallic paints and get the same result. Just make sure your brush is fairly dry as you're going over, so you do have a little bit of that black shining through, or whatever your main color is. I'm using 2 of Dollar Tree's Tealights because they have this little lip at the top and they're perfect for this project. You can use whatever Tealight you would like. I recommend whatever it is having a little bit of a lip. You're going to put your piece together so it looks like this. Once you have it completely assembled, you'll see here that the little Tealight sits right there. To attach the pallets, I'm going to be using some Titebond wood glue and some hot glue. Just putting a little bit on the edges of the pallets and then pressing them gently on the back of the inside of these frames and allowing this to dry. You want to make sure it's dry before you start the next process because we're going to have to poke holes around the pallets. For our attachment, I'm just going to use some of this jewelry gauge wire that I keep in my stash. This stuff is really manipulatable and it's kind of tough. So I use a pair of needle nose pliers to help me finagle it around to keep it in place when I'm doing different things. As you can see here, it holds that Tealight perfectly, just settles right on top of that gauge wire. I used a little tool just to kind of pop holes through the back and then fed that wire through until the Tealight caught and held in place. And then I just bent them on each side, and there are several different ways you can do this. For the sake of time, I just grabbed some painter's tape, which you'll see me do in just a second, and put right over the ends. You could also grab some brown craft paper, put on the back and tape it or glue it down. This is going to help prevent any scratching on your wall. And then add whatever hanger you would like. You could also use the hanger that is already on the frames and put them on your wall. I did also have some of that black jewelry gauge wire and used that in one of these sconces so you could see what it looked like with the black wire. And I took some of my gilding wax and painted over the silver wire, making it gold so it matched the rest of the frames. If you're anything like me, you have these Dollar Tree wood pallets in your stash, and you also have bits of this particular palette or pieces where you've messed up and they're just kind of sitting around. You don't want to throw them away and you don't know what to use them for. So I want to show you a cool way that you can kind of repurpose them to create one piece of home decor. You're going to cut them all down so this way they look very cohesive, and then space them apart as if they're all one piece. Take some wood glue and some hot glue, a couple of popsicle sticks, and just attach everything, leaving those gaps so this way you can't tell where one ends and one starts. When I had all of them on there, I then took some single popsicle sticks that were not cut into bits, added more hot glue and wood glue over top the bits, and allowed that to dry. So this way everything was on there really well. I'm going to paint my piece using these 3 colors. Feel free to paint yours whatever color you would like, or to stain it whatever color you would like. Again, make this as big as you would like, or take several of these, glue them together like this, and then attach them sideways for an even wider piece. There's so many different ways that you could put these extra bits together to repurpose them so you don't have to throw anything away. I decided to just grab some florals and take some twine and wrap them all around the bottom. You could use this for several different things. I just decided to use mine as a little floral holder piece. I took a napkin that I had in my stash, this little decorative napkin, super pretty, and I cut it down into pieces, just kind of wrapped it around, and I also glued this down. If you don't want to glue anything down onto your piece, you don't have to. You could use some floral wire and just attach it like that. This is just what worked best for me. This is super simple to do and it gives a really high-end feel. Such a great way to reuse those palette bits you have sitting around in your stash. We're going to need 4 of these pallets for this wire basket hanging storage piece. We're going to start off by removing the pesky tags on the back because we're not going to need those. And then I'm grabbing my little spritzer so I can wet this down. I have painted hundreds of pallets at this point. I've made so many projects. And one thing I've learned is that wetting the pallets or even immersing them in a little tin with water and paint, it gets in all the crevices if you don't have the time or the correct weather to be outside spray painting. So I like to add a little bit of water to these joints, grab my paint color, and everything just goes along really smoothly. Or just paint them regularly. Do you? Don't let me tell you how to paint your palettes. This is just what works best for me. I let the pieces completely dry and then started to arrange them on top of one another like this. And you can make as many of these as you want. You'll see how cool this idea is, and you can really do a lot with it and make several of these if you want, or one large one. You will need to pick these wire baskets up from Dollar Tree or wherever store has some cute little wire baskets that are inexpensive, but the size of these are absolutely perfect. I'm gonna need 2 for my storage organizer, and we're gonna have to also make sure this is really, really sturdy. So whatever we're plopping in our baskets, it holds up as it's hanging on the wall. So I flipped our pieces over in the same position we had them and then grabbed some popsicle sticks. Now, I took a second arranging them and realized that they were a little bit larger and didn't necessarily go over the creases in the sections that I wanted. So I just grabbed my scissors and cut them suckers down. Now it's time to bring in my favorite wood glue to apply on here so we have a nice long lasting hold. And then when I was done with the placement of that, I brought in the hot glue gun so we could get a quick and immediate hold on these popsicle sticks down in the placement so I could carry on continuing to make this project. And I want to cut real quick to a quick little craft hack. If your glue stick is running out in your glue gun and you did not know about this, heat up the end of one of your new glue sticks with a little smoosh of glue and then insert it in the back so this way it glues to the old stick and allows you a continuous flow of hot glue without having to hold on to the back of the new stick. You're welcome. Now it's time to bring in the stapler because it's not enough that we shoved hot glue and wood glue on this sucker. We need to put some staples on here as well. This is just going to make sure that if you put something that has weight on this, that under no circumstances are the pallets going to come apart. I mean, seriously, there's not much worse than entertaining some people when you're a crafter and then the crafts you have around the house just fall apart. I'm choosing to use sawtooth hammer and hangers for this next part. You can grab these off Amazon. I'm pretty sure I have these linked in my affiliate link down in the description box. You could absolutely use hooks of any kind to just kind of put in here and then hang the baskets, or some zip ties. I felt like these were going to be the best for what I was looking to use this piece for, making sure it was sturdy. Now we're going to need to bring in my wonky hammer. That's what I like to call this thing. It is wonky, right? Like I know people tell me what it is all the time when I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I can never remember. I'm like horrible at it. Anyhow, look at how perfect these baskets fit on here. Seriously, like look at the wire. It literally matches up to the size of the pallets. I love this. These also are perfect for fitting right inside the creases of the pallets. And the hammer tooth hangers, they fit gingerly over top of the gap, ensuring that our wire basket is not going to pop out here. I decided that I wanted to take a little bit of chalk paint and go over these hangers just so this way they weren't sticking out silver like a sore thumb. Centerpiece, you're going to need 3 of these palettes, and you can paint them whatever color you want. For this project, I'm going to leave them neutral so they match these little chalkboard houses I grabbed from Dollar Tree. To attach the pieces, I'm going to use my favorite wood glue, and people, this project, it only took me a few minutes. I used the hot glue in opposite sections of where I had the wood glue, and then attached the first piece at the bottom. And then I did the same thing to the sides, and I made sure to flip the pallets so they were backwards and we could see the wood pieces on the sides pop out. To apply the other side of the house, I put the glue in all the little spots that I thought that it needed to go, and then attached the piece that I had already put together on top of that and held it in place for a couple of seconds. I really think that you could use this for so many things, but for sake of staging the video, I just popped some floral foam in here and did my best to arrange some pieces so you guys could see how awesome this piece is. This quick and easy idea, we're going to need not 1, but 2 of the Dollar Tree pallets and 2 of their wire baskets. You can remix this idea in so many different ways, and you can absolutely glue your pieces down if you would like, and feel free to paint yours whatever color matches your decor. I'm going to leave mine neutral and just pass on the idea here. These pallets fit absolutely perfect in the bottom of these baskets, so just adding them alone gives it a little bit more of a high-end look than just the wire itself. Add one to the bottom and glue them together for an even better look and some more stability, and then use them around your home, filling them with whatever makes sense for the room you're placing them in. Whether you're putting some towels in them or using them to display some pieces, this idea just gives you another creative way to put those beautiful wood pallets at Dollar Tree to use. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree wood palette inspiration, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time.